Hey YouTube, so it is holiday season and many of you are getting away with your dogs, doing a bit of a staycation and going to different places overnight with your dogs.
Now, the coolest thing about taking your dogs with you is that you get to experience that joy, that family time, that special time together. And yet some of you are tearing your hair out. Now, we know there to be many, many tips to have great staycations with your dog, and that's what we're going to share with you today.
So first tip that we've got for you, whenever you're bringing your dog into an environment, whether that's walking them through a hotel, bringing them into your accommodation, or even actually going to some kind of like tourist type attraction, actually go ahead of your dog. So go there, check into the room, walk through the hotel, and actually plan out a route as to what are you going to encounter in that space, what are you going to come across.
So whether you're staying in a place like this, like a self-catering accommodation, or whether you're staying in a hotel, like Tom said, check out your route. So check out the way to get there. Equally, check out what facilities you have. Check out whether there's a toilet spot for your dog. Check out who you've got to walk past. Maybe there's a grizzly neighbor, dog version or human. Maybe you have to get past many different other hotel rooms. Maybe you've got a friendly concierge that you need to possibly avoid. Actually, there are lots of these things that you can consider before you ever even unlock the key to your room.
Now, next tip, set up your dog's station. That's going to be a bed or a boundary or something that they're used to, that you've worked with at home, you've built value in, and it's going to promote calmness, trigger calmness, and it's really going to be their kind of magnet for being like, I recognize that, I know what I'm doing here.
It's something that our dogs know as what we would call a conversation starter, a place of value, somewhere they feel comfortable, somewhere they feel at home, and actively something that you can encourage. Now, we would also maybe even pop a towel or something on there that they're comfortable with, maybe even your Gleam towel, if you've got one of those, something that you can either keep warm or cool or have around that they're just very familiar with.
Absolutely. Now, next thing that we've got to think about is how do we get them from the vehicle to the station that you've set up. And for some of you, that might be walking through a hotel where you're going to come across various dangers and distractions. And what you need to think about is what games and strategies are you going to employ to get from A to B. Now that might, for example, be, those of you that have done the Sexier Than a Squirrel challenge, you'll be familiar with these. It might be some magic hand. It might be some middle on the move.
You might do some figure eight walking in terms of getting in and then meandering a bit, getting in and then meandering a bit, changing the direction. The strategies you have will serve you for success. It's really important you get those under your belt before you ever get away. Remember, train for the situation and not in the situation.
Now, next up, let's rehearse the space. We want to have a relax on holiday, right? And so do our dogs. But if we don't rehearse the space, teach them the emotional state that we want them to be in that space, then it's going to be quite difficult. And they're probably going to come into that space quite excited or quite worried potentially. So don't forget your strategies.
Now let's bring the dogs in and let you watch us in the new space.
Okay, so we've now brought our dogs into the space. They've got their beds already set up as stations. They've gravitated towards them. And what we're not quick to do in this environment is start telling our dogs what to do. We want them to check the environment out, but equally, if you've got a dog who maybe is going to do zoomies, jump on the bed and whatever else, maybe let's bring them in on lead and let's keep them on lead until they've settled down, and then we could direct them to their magnetic beds.
And give them a moment to just take it in. Don't ask them to do any crazy tricks. Don't ask them to do anything too much. To be fair, for my dogs, it's something like now. It's a fairly regular occurrence. And yet this is the thing that's consistent. This is the thing that is, they can maintain, and this is a thing that they know, because our dogs do travel quite a lot. Actually, home from home, this makes them feel much more comfortable.
Now, some of you will have dogs who maybe are going to need a bit of help to transition down into calmness. And so what we would urge you to do is, before you even leave home to come to the, come on the holiday, actually make sure you've got something like a treat dispenser, a long-lasting chew, a passive calming activity like a lickable canine calm mat that's already prepped with food, so you can immediately kind of direct them onto it, and it allows you to get your bearings as well and get organized, maybe unpack your suitcase, right? So what you're doing is you're pre-planning.
Now, if you don't have a chance to take your boundary away with you, just as Tom's alluded to, you may have brought a suitcase. These are also very useful tools in dog training when you are away and when you're traveling, because I know, just like you do, when you're on a staycation, actually there's a lot to fit in that car. So something like a suitcase, utilizing what's around you, utilizing boundaries, utilizing the venue. For me, when I look at a space like this and a small holiday home or holiday room or annex or whatever it might be that you're going to stay in, no, you don't have all of your space that you might have at home. What you need to do is work out what you can utilize and how you can utilize it well to make it work for you and your dog or dogs.
Now, there are going to be lots of unusual noises potentially. If you're in a hotel, there might be people walking back and forth in front of your room.
Very quick one on that, Tom. One of my top tips, and if you do have someone walking up and down the corridor, and sometimes it is late at night and sometimes it's early in the morning, one of my top tips, and this might be a little bit out there, I will pop rugs or blankets or something under the door so your dog doesn't constantly see the shadows or the movement. And the second thing, and so pillows, blankets, whatever might be available at the doorway, and my dog's boundary would be the furthest away from that point if they were to worry about these things. Both of these two dogs are absolutely fine in this scenario. Classic, however, as a very young dog, would always growl and bark every time someone went by. So of course I was doing all of my distract, mark, treat and different forms of positive training for people that are wandering by. So I was doing that, and in addition to it, I tried to make it minimal for her by popping something on those doorways just to give her a hand.
So whenever you hear a noise, what you're going to do is have some of your dog's daily food allowance ready to grab, so that you can, whether it's delivering one piece of food, or your dog might require a bit of a scatter so that they can really kind of zone in on the food and disengage from that noise. You'll find that if you're really kind of strict with yourself on pairing these noises with food in that first kind of 24 hours of your holiday, actually you get to relax more and more as it goes along, because your dog has kind of established that these are normal.
Now, taking your dog away on holiday, one other thing I would absolutely consider, guys, is what you're going to do when you leave that space. So I think this is really important. Understand what is allowed and what's not allowed. Some places will allow you to leave a dog crated, others will not. If you do happen to leave your dog crated or in a safe space, I would always leave a television on, a radio on, or something that your dog is comfortable with, and a long-lasting chew that is safe and appropriate for your dog. However, not all places allow it, and not all people would want to leave them in those situations depending on where you might be. So think about where's appropriate, think about how it's appropriate, think about things you can do to minimise any sort of stress or difficulty for your dog, and setting up safe spaces wherever you might be.
So with that, guys, what we want you to have are staycations, holidays that are relaxing and exactly what they're meant to be. You're going through this world with your dog as a team, and part of that is in the preparation, part of that is in the great decision making in the moment. That was this episode of Absolute Dogs TV. We'll see you in the next episode, which will be next week. If you haven't subscribed to that YouTube channel, make sure to do so, because it means that you kind of get an announcement when episodes go live. And next week's episode is going to be really, really cool. So with that, guys, hit subscribe, leave a comment under the video.
Most of all, happy holidays.
Remember, game changers, whatever the dog owning struggle, there's a game for that.
If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to our channel.
And check out our new 25-day online dog training challenge. Watch the videos, play the games, transform your dog owning struggles.
As a loyal YouTube subscriber, you can get a 70% discount through the link in the description below.
And if you haven't already, subscribe to the #1 most transformational dog training podcast on iTunes and Spotify, the Sexier Than a Squirrel podcast.
And remember to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more live teaching, video content and free training using the links in the description.